Is it more like a predictable trend?
Good, a predictable trend. Now, if we were to follow closely the same analogy with the attacks, you will see a trend. Basically, human beings are creatures of habit. Me, you, all of us. Anything that is man-driven, once you follow it closely, you're going to see a trend. And it is from the trend that you're going to provide a solution that will get to the underbelly of the problem. So what am I saying? When we have problems, we turn right around, back the problems, and go into solutions. No. The solution is in the problem. Basically, what we are seeing in the second lease of the state of emergency is a continuation of a system that is more or less attritionalist. But we need to begin to consider the maneuverist approach to doing things. A maneuverist approach is just looking for that crucial 20% of the adversary's operation that informs the larger 80.
We need to get to the point of more preemptive than reactionary.
Beautiful. We are being reactionary here. We must be what you call responsive. We should respond. Terrorism is itinerant.
Okay, give us an example. I mean, how would that play out in this Burma? Assuming they were attacking, when they attacked for 5 hours, if we were to have that kind of things, what would the scenario be?
When they attacked for 5 hours, the first thing we should be looking at, what would have made them succeed? I spoke about early warning systems. I spoke about intrusion detection systems. I spoke about the length. Look at the loss exchange ratio. Loss exchange ratio is what we call kill ratio. If you had a fight, 500 men came in and you got 24, as we were told, and they got 6 of yours. Now, for them to have gotten 6 of yours, it implies there were either not enough people there for them to hit, or your men were absolutely very good. And for you to have hit 24 out of 500, it's either you didn't have enough men on ground, and before they could do more than 24, a good number of them were already out, or there was no one there. These are pointers that we must address. Okay? Other than that, we're also going to look at the time frame from 3 to 8. That's 5 hours. 5 hours also is what I call an indicator to the level of preparedness and response. Did it take us 5 hours to actually contain this operation? That's a pointer to the level of preparedness. Okay? Preparation is key to either containing or repelling an attack. If you are prepared, it means you are expectant. So could the 5 hours have been actually invested in mobilization?
I've been listening to you, and I'm thinking about the side of the soldiers as well.
Really?
You talked about human beings being creatures of habit and how, we do things almost reactionary. But you also talked about how this was possible in an area where a state of emergency has been declared. In fact, it's been renewed already. Don't we also think about fatigue? Could it also be fatigue, or are we also running out of ideas? Because I'm trying to imagine troops constantly being at the alert, and wondering what the next move of the enemy might be in a situation where you don't even know who the enemy is or what form the next attack might take.
Yes. I tell you, the enemy could be I wouldn't use the word enemy. Let's use adversary. The adversary is formless, but the target is fixed. Wherever he goes, whatever he does, is going to come there.
That's a major disadvantage, isn't it?
That's a major disadvantage. But I want to assure you that in such situations, technically we say the adversary is not going to be fighting on ground of his own choosing. He's going to be fighting on own grounds. It's like playing a home match or an away match. So if you actually are on top of your game, you can deny him those leverages and advantages he's going to enjoy coming all over.
Including in this Burma scenario?
Yes, indeed.
So what if he's coming with more sophisticated equipment?
That is where we talk about the issue of capacity and capability. Take a very good look at our troops. They are not different from the troops that have done well outside of this country. I once asked a question on a program on this channel, and I said, why would soldiers do well out there, then come home, same soldiers, different scenario, and not do well? That's bring capability and capacity. Those are issues that inform what I want to call infrastructural and systemic deficits as we are experiencing in the country today. The army is a microcosm of Nigeria. It doesn't operate outside the socio-economic, political, and other vagaries of the challenges we have. It's also operating within the same brackets.
In other words,
is a smaller Nigeria. The same challenges we talk about every day exist in the army. So let's talk about capacity and capability.
Yeah, but these chaps are trained and they are there to
capable.
overcome some of all these challenges.
They are capable. The questions are, do they have the capacity? They are capable, they are trained.
But they always say they do.
Yes, the army will never tell you it doesn't. It's like a football team telling you XYZ player won't be playing the next match.
Until the results come forward.
But then, if you do a post-mortem of operations from what is on ground, you can actually backtrack and be able to be informed of what is available.
Yeah, but you know, there are some things that they may appear basic to the layman out there, you know, such as they wonder, this is not the first time they have this kind of attack against military formations across the country, in that part, for instance. And then they ask, look, what kind of equipment do they use? Where do these weapons come from? What about the funding for some of these? These are things that ordinarily they could easily trace. So would it be out of place for them to identify and brief Nigerians on all of this to instill that confidence back to Nigerians?
Yes, there is always a problem with that, which I have observed. We tend to have systems, government systems, that shy away from telling us the truth. But they seem to forget that it's about us. The first solution, the first step towards a solution is accepting that the problem exists. If you don't accept the problem exists, then you've closed that business.
I was also listening to the account, you know, you also seem to be picking holes in the story in terms of how, you know, how is it possible that you got 24 of your own men and only 6 of yours were taken, and we have to ask, how possible is that? Do you also think that we're being minimalist with the truth in that particular respect as well?
It's not unusual to have conflicting figures when this kind of things happen as to who was lost and who survived. Both sides could give their own figures, and you just have to work with indicators on ground. Now, what I'm saying is this: the sheer number of the men who attacked, okay, coupled with the response we saw and the damage that was done, begins to cast certain concerns over those figures. Listen, 3 decommissioned aircrafts were burnt in the first attack. Decommissioned or commissioned is not the issue. The aircrafts are not kept outside of the perimeters of that unit. So if the man could actually get to the perimeters, cross the perimeters, make it to the decommissioned aircraft and burn them, then he could have done any other thing. In principle, that is not encouraging.
The reason I have to ask that question is, if we're talking about our troops, I mean, we also want to believe that every single troop, member of a troop whose life is lost, will be accounted for. I want to believe.
Yes, every member, every soldier who loses his life, naturally, should be accounted for. But then, from the outside, you get what you are given officially. Even if you have things coming out from the grapevines, if they are not confirmed, we cannot do anything about it. So what I'm trying to say here is that the situation itself calls for us to start thinking. Somebody is not thinking. Now it has deteriorated to women and children. And I ask again, on ground zero, why should we have military families being quartered there?
That's an anomaly.
I mean, definitely. If it has gotten to that stage where those places are in ground zero and they are the hub, why would you think the terrorists attack those bases? Because they are crucial to the operation. The terrorists don't have the resources or the spread to take on them on what you call a conventional status, 1-to-1, bullet for bullet, 1-for-1. So why don't we just go for the 20% that engineers the 80? Think the Pareto principle. Just key in those 20, why don't we go in for the 20%, those key 20% that we can just touch. And
so as you say, if we're able to trace their habits,
yes,
we would have known the kind of places they would attack.
I would have favored, I want to see a situation where we should be looking more at the maneuverist approach to fighting terrorism. What is the maneuverist approach? You are going to look at a whole line of things about the adversary. And you're going to look at those key areas you can touch with little effort. And it just sends it shuts the operation down. I'll give you an example of the maneuverist approach. There's this popular military historian called Karl von Clausewitz. And he used to say something about the maneuverist approach. He said, what you need to do is identify the adversary's center of gravity. Take it out. And the entire pack of cards tumbles. For the understanding of the layman, think a game of chess. It doesn't matter how many pieces you have or you've taken from me. If I can take that king out, the game ends.